Tommy sat at his bedroom window, clutching his favorite toy rocket. The morning had started like any other Tuesday. Mom making pancakes downstairs, Dad reading news on his tablet, and the neighbor's dog barking at passing cars. But everything changed when the sky turned purple. At first, Tommy thought it was just another weird cloud formation, like the ones he often spotted while lying in the grass. But clouds didn't usually hum, and they definitely didn't block out the sun with perfect hexagon shapes. "Tommy, get down here, quickly." His mom's voice carried a tone he had never heard before. It was the kind of voice that made his stomach feel funny, like when he had to give a speech in front of his class. The 8-year-old ran downstairs, still holding his rocket. His parents stood in front of the TV, faces pale as they watched the news. Giant ships, dark as storm clouds and smooth as glass, were appearing over every major city in the world. The news lady's voice shook as she reported that all attempts to communicate with the vessels had failed. "It's happening everywhere," Dad whispered, his hand gripping Mom's shoulder. "London, Tokyo, New York." A deep boom shook their house, making the windows rattle and the lights flicker. Tommy dropped his rocket. Outside, their small-town sky had disappeared completely, replaced by the belly of one of those massive ships. It was like looking up at the bottom of a giant swimming pool, but instead of blue, it was a dark, metallic purple. Then they came down, hundreds of tall, thin figures floating from the ships on beams of silver light. They moved like dancers, too graceful to be human. Their bodies seemed to be made of shifting metal plates that changed color to match their surroundings. Tommy thought they looked like the liquid metal robot from that old movie his dad liked, but somehow scarier. "Get to the basement," Dad ordered, pulling out the emergency kit they kept for storms. "Now." But before they could move, a high-pitched sound filled the air. Every electronic device in their house turned on at once. The TV, phones, even Tommy's electronic toys upstairs. Images appeared on every screen. One of the metal beings speaking in a voice that sounded like a computer trying to be human. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth. We are the Gray Fleet. Your planet has been selected for integration into the collective. All adult humans are to report for processing. Resistance will result in immediate termination. Children will be evaluated at a later date." Mom grabbed Tommy's hand. "Hide in your special place, sweetheart. Don't come out until I come get you." Tommy's special place was a small storage space under the stairs. Dad had cleaned it out last summer, and Tommy had turned it into his secret hideout. He never thought he'd have to use it for real hiding. Through a crack in the door, Tommy watched as the aliens moved down their street. They didn't walk. They glided, their feet never touching the ground. When they reached his house, 2 of them entered without opening the door, passing through it like ghosts. "We detect 2 adult humans," their metallic voices announced. "Come with us for processing." "Our son," Mom started to say. "Children are irrelevant at this time," the alien responded. "Their chaos patterns make them unsuitable for immediate integration." Tommy had to cover his mouth to stop from crying out as he watched his parents being led away. They moved stiffly, like robots, surrounded by a faint silver glow. The last thing he heard was his mom's voice, surprisingly calm. "Stay safe, Tommy. Remember, sometimes the best solutions come from thinking like a kid." As the aliens left with his parents, Tommy noticed something odd. When his remote control car suddenly started moving by itself, probably because of whatever the aliens did to the electronics, one of them actually jumped back. It was the first time they'd shown any reaction that seemed like fear. Tommy wiped his eyes and gripped his toy rocket tighter. His mom's words echoed in his head. Maybe, just maybe, being the kid wasn't such a bad thing after all. 3 days had passed since Tommy's parents were taken. He stayed in his house, eating the snacks from his secret stash and watching the aliens through his windows. His mom had always said that when you don't know what to do, the best thing is to learn more about the problem. The aliens, the Gray Fleet, as they called themselves, had a strange way of moving. They never did anything without purpose. Each step, each turn, each action was perfectly planned. Tommy noticed they even spaced themselves exactly the same distance apart when they patrolled the streets. On the fourth morning, Tommy saw something interesting. Little Billy from next door had left his toy train running in circles on his front porch before the aliens took his family. The aliens wouldn't go near that porch. They would take long detours around it, their metallic bodies seeming to shiver whenever the train changed direction. They don't like things they can't predict, Tommy whispered to himself, writing it down in his Spider-Man notebook. He had started keeping notes like the scientists did in movies. Later that day, Tommy saw another strange thing. A cat was chasing a butterfly near an alien patrol. The aliens froze completely, their color-changing metal skin flickering rapidly as they watched the cat's random jumps and turns. One alien actually backed away when the cat suddenly changed direction and ran past it. Tommy drew a picture in his notebook, a stick figure alien with a big X over a cat and a toy train. Below it, he wrote in his best handwriting, "They hate random stuff." Getting braver, Tommy decided to test his theory. He took his remote control car and, staying hidden behind the living room curtains, drove it in crazy patterns near a group of aliens patrolling his street. The results were better than he expected. The aliens scattered like pigeons when someone runs through them. Their perfect formation broke apart. Tommy heard them making strange sounds, like computer error noises from his dad's laptop when it crashed. Error in prediction matrix, one alien said, its voice glitching, unable to calculate movement pattern. Retreat and regroup. Tommy could hardly believe it. These super advanced aliens, who had taken over the whole world, were afraid of a toy car because they couldn't guess where it would go next. He spent the rest of the day watching them more carefully. He noticed they never went near the playground at the end of his street. When he looked closer, he saw why. The swings were still moving in the wind, the merry-go-round occasionally creaking as it turned slightly. The random movements seemed to make the aliens nervous. That night, Tommy made a list in his notebook. Things aliens hate. Toys that move randomly. Animals being silly. Kids' games. Anything unpredictable. Then he remembered something his teacher, Mrs. Brown, had said in science class. The opposite of random is pattern. Scientists love patterns because they help them predict what will happen next. That was it. These aliens were like super strict scientists. They only liked things they could predict. And what was the most unpredictable thing in the whole world? Kids playing. Tommy looked out his window at the alien patrol passing by his house. They moved in perfect lines, turned at perfect angles, and never did anything without a reason. He smiled as he picked up his walkie-talkie, the one he used to talk to other kids in the neighborhood during hide-and-seek games. They may be smart, he whispered to himself, but they don't know anything about having fun. He pressed the talk button on his walkie-talkie. He knew other kids must be hiding and watching too. Maybe, just maybe, they could all work together. After all, who better to fight super-logical aliens than kids who didn't care about logic at all? "Hello," he whispered into the walkie-talkie. "Is anyone there? I think I know how to beat them." Tommy's walkie-talkie crackled to life after what felt like forever. "Hello," the quiet voice whispered back. "This is Amy from number 24. I'm hiding in my treehouse." More voices joined in. Jack from the corner house. Pete from across the park. Lisa from the blue house. 5 kids in total, all hiding and watching just like Tommy. "Meet me at the playground tonight," Tommy whispered into the walkie-talkie. "The aliens never go there, and bring any noisy toys you have." That night, under the purple glow of the alien ships, 5 children snuck through backyards and over fences. The aliens were so focused on their perfect patrol patterns that they never looked up at the trees or behind the bushes where kids could easily hide. Tommy had brought his backpack filled with his noisiest toys. The other kids did the same. Amy had her tablet with games. Jack brought his drum set from music class. Pete had his remote control cars, and Lisa brought her karaoke machine. "Watch this," Tommy said, pointing to the alien patrol that always passed by the playground at exactly 9:15 p.m. He had timed their movements. They were so precise you could set a clock by them. Tommy pulled out his toy robot, the one that danced and sang Baby Shark when you pressed its stomach. He waited until the aliens were right next to the playground, then pressed the button. Baby Shark, do. The reaction was instant. The aliens' metallic skin flickered wildly with random colors. They stumbled back, their perfect formation breaking apart. Error. One alien announced in its computer-like voice. Unknown sound pattern detected. Unable to predict rhythm sequence. Now, Tommy shouted. All 5 kids pressed buttons, switched on toys, and made as much random noise as possible. Amy's tablet blasted different game sounds. Jack banged his drums with no pattern. Pete's cars zoomed around in crazy circles. Lisa's karaoke machine played 3 songs at once. The aliens completely lost control. Their bodies flickered so fast, they looked like broken TV screens. Some tried to back away but bumped into each other. Others spun in circles, their systems clearly overwhelmed by the chaos. Critical failure in prediction matrices. One alien screamed in a glitchy voice. Unable to compute. The entire patrol group retreated, practically running away from the playground. For the first time since the invasion, the kids saw the aliens looking scared. It worked. Amy shouted, jumping up and down. They ran away. Did you see how they freaked out when we played everything at once? Jack laughed. They couldn't handle it. Tommy pulled out his Spider-Man notebook. They hate kid stuff because they can't understand it. They need everything to make perfect sense. But nothing we do makes sense to them. We should tell other kids, Lisa suggested, still holding her karaoke machine. My cousin lives in the next town. She has a walkie-talkie too. That's it, Tommy said excitedly. We can use our walkie-talkies to reach other kids. We'll build a whole army of kids. Pete, who was the oldest at 10, looked worried. But what about our parents? We need to help them too. Tommy nodded, watching the aliens regrouping at the far end of the street. They were keeping their distance from the playground now, their movements less confident than before. First, we need more kids, Tommy said. Then we'll figure out how to help our parents. But now we know something important. The aliens aren't invincible. They're just big bullies who don't know how to handle a little kid chaos. The 5 children gathered in a circle, their toys scattered around them like weapons. For the first time since the invasion, they felt hopeful. They weren't just scared kids hiding anymore. They were Earth's first line of defense against the Grey Fleet. And they had the most powerful weapons of all, imagination and unpredictability. Word spread through the walkie-talkie network like wildfire. Within 3 days, Tommy and his friends had contacted over 50 kids across town. Each new child who joined brought their own toys and ideas for creating chaos. Tommy turned his bedroom into a command center, with maps drawn in crayon showing where all the alien patrols walked. He used different colored sticky notes to mark where other kids were hiding. His Spider-Man notebook was now full of battle plans that looked more like game instructions than military strategy. The aliens are changing their patrol routes, Amy reported through the walkie-talkie. She was their best scout because she could climb any tree without making a sound. They're avoiding all the places where we played our toys. Good, Tommy replied. That means we can take back more areas. Did everyone get Operation Playground working in their neighborhoods? One by one, kids reported in. Every playground, park, and schoolyard in town had become a chaos zone, where kids would randomly activate toys, play music, and make unpredictable movements. The aliens wouldn't go near these places anymore. But their biggest discovery came from Max, a 7-year-old who lived near the aliens' main base, the town hall. He had spotted something interesting while watching through his binoculars. The grown-ups. Max's excited whisper came through the walkie-talkie. They're keeping them in the big building, But something weird happens when we make our chaos nearby. The silver glow around the adults gets weaker. Tommy rushed to his window with his own binoculars. Max was right. When they created enough random noise and movement, the strange silver glow that controlled the adults flickered, just like the aliens' metal skin. The energy they used to control our parents. Tommy thought out loud, it must work like their prediction computers. If we confuse one, we confuse the other. That night, they held their biggest meeting yet. 30 kids gathered in the school gymnasium, another place the aliens avoided because of all the bouncing balls and swinging ropes that moved randomly in the air conditioning. We need to make the biggest chaos ever, Tommy told the group, standing on top of a gym mat. Not just toys and music, but games too. The aliens can't understand our games because they don't know how to play. The kids broke into teams, each with a special job. The toy team would gather every noisy, moving, or unpredictable toy they could find. The game team would organize playground games like tag and duck duck goose around the alien patrols. The music team would set up speakers playing everything from nursery rhymes to video game sounds. Jenny, who was good with computers, figured out how to hack into the school's announcement system. We can play sounds through every speaker in town, she said proudly. Even the youngest kids helped. 4-year-old Billy taught everyone his favorite game, running around in circles until you get dizzy and fall down. The aliens hate this one the most, he giggled. They try to guess where you'll fall, but they can't. As Tommy looked around the gymnasium, at all the kids planning and practicing, he realized something amazing. They weren't just playing anymore, they were training. Every silly game, every random dance move, every crazy song was a weapon against the aliens' perfect order. Tomorrow, Tommy announced, we take back our town. Operation Total Chaos begins at sunrise. The children cheered, but quietly. They had learned to be sneaky. As they headed back to their hiding places, Tommy added one last thing. Remember what my mom said, the best solutions come from thinking like a kid. Well, tomorrow we're going to think like kids harder than anyone has ever thought like kids before. The aliens had no idea what was coming. After all, how do you prepare for an attack when the attack is completely unpredictable? Sunrise painted the purple alien ships with streaks of orange and pink. Tommy stood at his bedroom window, walkie-talkie in hand. Across town, 30 kids waited for his signal, each ready with their own special brand of chaos. Remember, Tommy spoke into the walkie-talkie, it has to be completely random. Don't make any patterns. Just play like you normally would, but everywhere at once. Is everyone ready? One by one, the kids reported in. The toy team had placed remote-controlled cars, dancing robots, and jumping toys throughout the town. The game team was split into groups, ready to start games of tag and hide and seek through the streets. The music team had connected to every speaker they could find. Operation Total Chaos starts now. Tommy pressed the button on his tablet that Jenny had programmed. Suddenly, the quiet morning exploded into wonderful madness. Through every speaker in town, from schools to shops to car radios, came a mix of songs. The Baby Shark song played at the same time as Old MacDonald, while video game music and ice cream truck jingles added to the confusion. The aliens' reaction was instant. Their perfect formations broke apart as they tried to process all the different sounds. Their metallic skin flickered with rainbow colors as their systems struggled to make sense of the noise. But that was just the beginning. Remote-controlled cars zoomed out from under bushes and behind trees, driving in random patterns. Toy robots danced on sidewalks and porches. Wind-up toys hopped and flipped everywhere. Now the games. Tommy commanded through the walkie-talkie. Kids burst out from their hiding places. Some played hopscotch right in front of alien patrols. Others started games of tag, running in zigzags through the streets. Billy and his friends spun in circles until they fell down, making the aliens back away in confusion. Error, error. The aliens' voices crackled with static. Multiple unpredictable patterns detected. System overload imminent. Near the town hall, Amy's team started a game of duck, duck, goose. The random choosing of who would be chased made the aliens' prediction systems crash completely. Some aliens actually tripped over themselves trying to back away from the circle of playing children. The silver glow controlling the adults inside the building began to flicker and fade. Through the windows, Tommy could see grown-ups starting to shake off the aliens' control. "It's working." Jenny's voice came through the walkie-talkie. "The control field is breaking down. Add more chaos." Tommy grabbed his backpack full of bouncy balls. "Everyone use your backup toys," he shouted into the walkie-talkie. Hundreds of bouncy balls rained down on the streets. Kids with bubble machines created clouds of unpredictable floating spheres. Jump ropes whirled through the air as children did double dutch in the middle of intersections. The aliens were in complete panic. Their perfect order had dissolved into confusion. Some spun in circles, others crashed into each other, and many simply froze in place, overwhelmed by the chaos around them. "Critical system failure," the alien commander's voice boomed from their ships. "Human offspring generating unprecedented levels of chaos. Mathematical prediction impossible. Retreat. Retreat." The silver glow disappeared completely from the town hall. Doors burst open as parents and other adults ran out, freed from alien control. Tommy saw his mom and dad among them. "Keep playing," Tommy yelled into the walkie-talkie. "Don't stop until they're all gone." The alien ship's engines roared to life. Their perfect hexagon formation broke apart as they tried to escape the wave of chaos below. The ships bumped into each other, their pilots too confused by the children's games to fly straight. As the ships disappeared into the sky, the sound of children's laughter mixed with the cheers of freed adults. A sense of joy and disbelief filled the air. They had done it. The kids had actually done it. Tommy's mom found him in the street, still throwing bouncy balls at the retreating ships. She hugged him tight and whispered, "I told you the best solutions come from thinking like a kid." News of the victory spread faster than the alien ships could retreat. Tommy's walkie-talkie network reached kids in other cities, who reached more kids, until children across the whole country knew about Operation Total Chaos. The aliens tried to regroup and attack other cities, but they found the same thing everywhere. Kids ready with toys, games, and pure unpredictable energy. Every playground became a fortress of fun. Every schoolyard turned into a chaos zone. Tommy sat in his living room, watching the news with his parents. The TV showed alien ships retreating from cities all over the world. In Paris, children played Ring Around the Rosie around the Eiffel Tower. In Tokyo, thousands of kids had a massive game of tag through the streets. In New York, the sound of jump rope rhymes echoed between skyscrapers. The Gray Fleet's main ship is trying to understand what went wrong, Tommy's dad said, reading from his tablet. He was part of the team studying the aliens' abandoned technology. Their computers are completely confused by all the data from children's games. Tommy smiled, remembering how the aliens had called kids chaos generators. They hadn't known how right they were. The next day, scientists found something interesting in the aliens' computers. They asked Tommy and his friends to come to the research center to help them understand it. The aliens had kept detailed records of everything, trying to make sense of their defeat. On a big screen, Tommy and his friends watched the aliens' final report to their home planet. Earth invasion. Planet defended by small beings of pure chaos. They generate random patterns that crash our systems. They gather in groups to perform games, activities with no logical purpose. They make sounds that repeat without reason. Example, baby shark. They move in ways that cannot be predicted. Their chaos is contagious. It spreads to our control fields. Illusion. Planet Earth is protected by powerful chaos magic. Chaos magic. Amy giggled. They think playing is magic. Well, it did make them disappear, Tommy pointed out, making everyone laugh. The scientists had more questions for the kids, They wanted to know exactly how they had organized everything, but Tommy just shrugged. "We didn't really organize," he explained. "We just played. That's what kids do." The grown-ups looked confused, just like the aliens had. They couldn't understand how something so simple had defeated such advanced technology. That evening, as kids around the world celebrated with more games and toys, a message came from space. The Gray Fleet had marked Earth with a special warning in their star maps. "Danger, planet protected by unpredictable small ones. Do not attempt invasion." Some adults wanted to make Tommy and his friends into big heroes. They talked about medals and ceremonies and special awards. But Tommy had a different idea. "Can we just have a big party instead?" he asked, "with games and toys and music. And everyone has to play, even the grown-ups." The adults agreed, though some looked nervous about having to play like kids again. But as the party started in the town park, something magical happened. Parents who hadn't played in years remembered how to be silly. Teachers joined in games of duck, duck, goose. Even serious scientists tried hopping scotch. Tommy watched it all from the top of the slide, his Spider-Man notebook still in his hands. He had written one last note. The aliens were wrong. Chaos isn't magic. Playing is just part of being human. And being human is what saved us. Then he put down his notebook, went down the slide headfirst, which made perfect sense to him, but would have crashed any alien computer trying to understand it, and joined a game of tag. After all, Earth needed to stay protected. And what better way to protect it than by having fun? 1 year had passed since the Gray Fleet's retreat. Earth had changed in ways nobody expected. The aliens' warning had spread across the galaxy, and other alien civilizations now kept their distance from the planet protected by chaos magic. Tommy sat in his treehouse, which had become famous as the place where the resistance against the Gray Fleet began. It was bigger now. The town had helped build it into a proper command center, complete with a slide for quick exits and a rope bridge to Amy's treehouse next door. Scientists and military leaders from around the world still came to visit, hoping to understand how children's games had defeated advanced alien technology. Today, another important visitor was climbing up the treehouse ladder. "The president cleared her schedule just to meet you," Tommy's mom said, helping the president through the treehouse door. The president looked around with wonder at the walls covered in children's drawings of the invasion, the toy bins labeled emergency chaos supplies, and the world map marked with playground locations. "So this is where it all started," she said, sitting cross-legged on the floor like all visitors had to do in Tommy's treehouse, where a kid figured out what all our military experts couldn't. Tommy shrugged. "I just noticed they were too busy trying to make everything make sense. Sometimes the best thing is to not make sense at all." The president nodded, pulling out an official-looking paper. "That's why I'm here. We're creating a new department called the Playground Defense Initiative. We want to make sure Earth stays protected, not with weapons, but with play." She explained how every city now had designated chaos zones, parks and playgrounds where kids could be as unpredictable as they wanted. Scientists had proven that these areas created patterns that confused alien scanning technology. Any ships that came close to Earth quickly turned away when their computers tried to analyze the random energy of children playing. "But we need someone to lead it," the president said. "Someone who understands that sometimes the best defense is a good game of tag." Tommy thought about it. "Can I still go to school and play with my friends?" "Of course. That's exactly what we want. You'll be our chief play officer. Your job will be to help kids remember to be kids." Tommy agreed, but on one condition, that his first official act would be to organize the biggest game of hide-and-seek ever played. The president laughed and agreed. That weekend, millions of kids across the world joined in the game. Satellites showed the Earth glowing with the energy of pure, unfiltered play. 3 different alien ships that had been approaching Earth immediately changed course, their computers overwhelmed by the unpredictable patterns. Tommy watched from his treehouse as kids played in the streets below. His Spider-Man notebook, now kept in a special display case in the town museum, had been replaced by a new one. On its first page, he had written his official mission statement as Chief Play Officer. Earth's Defense Plan. 1. Play like nobody's watching. 2. Have fun without rules. 3. Be as silly as possible. 4. Never grow up too much. 5. Keep aliens confused. His mom called him down for dinner, but stopped him before he went inside. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You saved the world by just being yourself." Tommy grinned. "Actually, I saved the world by being a kid. Being grown up is important too, but sometimes you need to remember how to play." That night, as Tommy got ready for bed, he looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere up there, the Gray Fleet was probably still trying to understand how they had been defeated by jump ropes and nursery rhymes. They would never understand, and that was exactly the point. Because sometimes the best way to win isn't to be stronger or smarter or more logical. Sometimes the best way to win is to be a kid, playing just for the fun of it, making up the rules as you go along. And if any more aliens were thinking about invading Earth, they would find 8 billion people ready to show them just how chaotic humans could be, especially the small ones with toys.